Hello, junkies. Welcome to Nocturnal Throwback, episode number 35. This, of course, is the podcast where we re-podcast the original Nocturnal story, which was written a chapter a week, recorded a chapter a week, and released a chapter a week way back in 2007 to 2008. There is so much going on in the news right now, and I am banging away on a edit draft, so I'm going over final edits from Big John Biscara, our continuity czar, and from our line editor. So I'm going to get back to work. This is just a quick shout out to say, holy cats, things are crazy in this country right now. And hopefully things calm down soon, but I have to get back to work. So I want you guys to enjoy this chapter very much. And here we go. Dig it. Nocturnal Throwback gets on. Welcome to the free podcast novel Nocturnal. This is episode number 35. Nocturnal is a podcast-only novel you can't buy in stores and you can't peek at the end. Written and performed by Scott Sigler. More information and more free stories available at scottsigler.com. This book contains adult language, mature situations, and lots of violence. Hello, junkies, and welcome to Nocturnal, episode number 35. This will not be the final episode. It's turning out to run a little longer than I expected. The end could come with number 36, or it could come with number 37. I guess you'll just have to tune in and see, because the FDO is a rat bastard like that. Stick around after the episode. We got a lot of cool shit to talk about. We're going to talk about the winner of the contest to design the Crypt, the ship that will be featured in the upcoming podcast novel, The Crypt. We will talk about the winner of the Design the Exterminators patch, which is the patch for the Special Forces unit that is featured in Contagious, the sequel to Infected that is out December 30th. We're going to have some junkie calls for you. We're going to have a couple of promos. We're going to have the brand new promo for Contagious. And as I promised in Nocturnal episode number 34, we're going to have a great big freaking announcement. And now, the story so far by Murder at Avedon Hill author P.G. Holyfield.
Hi, this is P.G. Holyfield, creator and producer of the Murder at Avedon Hill podcast novel, found at pgholyfield.com. Murder at Avedon Hill is a murder mystery, but set in a fantasy world with magic, monsters, and gods that have the annoying habit of living as mortals in order to directly affect events in the world. Right now, we're just about to release episode 35, so stop on over and give it a try. Scott Sigler even makes an appearance in an upcoming episode, playing a character that someone seeking FDO status would certainly appreciate. But enough about my podcast. Here's the story so far. San Francisco police detective Pookie Chang just watched his partner, Bryan Clouser, torture and murder a deformed man named Bonehead. Bonehead and his friends attacked and killed Robin Hudson, Bryan Clouser's girlfriend. Bryan is hell-bent on revenge, and he's out to find the people responsible for the hit, Rex Deprovdechuk and Firstborn. Rex is the leader of the Nocturnals, a murderous, monstrous San Francisco cult known for centuries as Marie's Children. To everyone's shock, Bryan is one of those children, a genetic freak with strength and speed that make him as deadly as he is brutal. During his torture, Bonehead gave up the location of Rex and Firstborn, the SS Jeremiah O'Brien on San Francisco's Pier 45. Frank Lanza and the San Francisco mob will be there, as will Dmitry Vasilov and the Russian Mafia. But two unexpected guests caught the attention of Bryan and Pookie, the twin 10-year-old daughters of Police Chief Amy Zhao. Chief Zhao is up against it. She has to make sure the O'Brien sails into the San Francisco Bay and under the Golden Gate Bridge, with the Italians, the Russians, and Rex and his Nocturnals securely aboard. If she can't pull this off, her twin girls, Myrrh and Tabs, will face a most gruesome ending. And now, episode 35 of Nocturnal.
The shit-brown Buick shot east on Broadway. Red porta-bubble light up on top, casting a red strobe on the empty 3 a.m. sidewalks, streets, and buildings. There was still enough traffic, though. Maybe San Francisco wasn't the city that never sleeps, but it would pop some no-dos, wash it down with a Red Bull and vodka, then stay up as late as it could. Certain spots in the city, downtown, North Beach, the Tenderloin, would still be hopping with the bar crowd, but Pookie meant to avoid all of those areas as he raced the Buick towards Pier 45. "Cut the siren when we're about 10 blocks out," Bryan said. "I don't want those fuckers to hear us coming." Bryan had his black skull cap in his lap. His right hand held a thick pen, looked like a paint pen. Must have grabbed it off the bow repair bench in the Jessup's basement. Bryan was drawing something on a flap of the skull cap in heavy, white ink. Pookie couldn't make it out. Bryan finished and set the cap on the floor between his feet, probably to let the ink dry. His right hand then started to check the pockets of his black felt peacoat, flashing in and out of secret slots, over and over, like an obsessive-compulsive magician. He also kept feeling at his left collarbone, right-hand fingers digging, probing. "Shouldn't we call for backup?" Pookie asked. "Seriously, Bri, we're talking monsters and shit." "They murdered Robin, Pooks. You saw what happened to Bonehead, and he got off easy. You want out? Get me to the O'Brien, then do as you please. Just don't try and stop me." Pookie started to say in automatic response that there was a system, a process, the rights of the individuals to proper representation. He started to say it, but stopped, because it rang hollow before the words were even out of his mouth. Robin was dead. He wanted to kill everyone responsible, just like Bryan did. That wasn't right, not even in the ballpark of right, but it's what he wanted more than anything. Maybe that would quench the burning ball of rage that whirled inside his chest. Bonehead's torture had been horrible, but a part of Pookie felt a sick satisfaction watching it happen. So Pookie said nothing. "That's what I thought," Bryan said. Pookie turned north on Van Ness. The Buick siren wailed. Cars got out of the way. "You might want to check the pockets of your cloak," Bryan said. "Adam does some pretty cool shit with these clothes." "Clothes?" Pookie said. "You mean fucking costumes?" "Just fucking check." Pookie did, keeping his left hand on the wheel while his right searched, then vice versa. His hands found many toys. 2 stun grenades, 2 5.7 magazines, which didn't help him much since he wasn't carrying a 5.7. Finally, his fingers graced a long, thin leather handle. He gripped the handle and pulled. "Holy shit!" Pookie said as he held up a 10-inch gray knife. It was far lighter than it should have been. "What is this, plastic?" "Ceramic," Bryan said. "You'll want to hold on to that. If you go up against one of the monsters, that's the only thing that can kill him." "How about blowing their fucking brains all over the pier? Will that kill them, Bri? Bryan nodded. "I'm sure as fuck gonna find out. They're not immortal or any shit like that, Pooks, but they heal real fast. Just don't shoot one and leave him there, 'cause he'll pop back up before you know it, and he'll kill you." As if to emphasize the point, Bryan turned in his seat, angling his body so that his left shoulder pointed to the Buick's dashboard. Then he bowed his back and shot forward, driving his collarbone into the dashboard. Plastic cracked and metal bent, but Pookie heard another sound, a deeper crack, from inside Bryan's shoulder. "What the fuck, man?" Pookie said. "Did you just break your collarbone on my fucking now fucked up dashboard?" "Yeah," Bryan said. Then he sat back, face screwed tight with pain. He reached up with his right hand again, fingers digging in, probing. Then he pulled the hand down hard. Another snapping sound. "Dude," Pookie said, "did you just reset your fucking collarbone?" "Yeah," Bryan said. He closed his eyes and put his head against the headrest. "This is retarded," Pookie said. "Just retarded." Who was this guy? This wasn't the Bryan Clauser he'd known a week ago, was it? Bryan had killed 3 people in the line of duty. Maybe this attitude really wasn't anything new at all. Maybe Pookie just hadn't recognized it. Maybe he hadn't wanted to recognize it. Until now. A flash of a shadow crossed overhead, making Pookie flinch. Then it was gone. Pookie leaned forward, head craned over the steering wheel, eyes searching the sky, but he saw nothing. Bri, I think we might have company." Bryan nodded and sat up. "I feel it. You're right." "So what do we do?" "Drive faster," Bryan said. "We've got to reach the O'Brien before it heads out into the bay. Get me there. Don't stop, no matter what. Flying monsters and shit. His best friend using the Buick's dashboard to play Dr. 90210. A goddamn cloak. Pookie didn't know what to think of any of it anymore. So he stopped thinking, and he just stepped on the gas. He angled over to the far right lane of Van Ness. The Buick rocketed across Lombard Street as they drew closer to the water. Chief Zoe stood on the deck of the Jeremiah O'Brien. She stood on the port side. Or maybe it was a starboard. She didn't know. If she looked to the front of the boat, then she was on the left. Yeah, that was port. The position let her see the doorway down to the hold, where the Russians were waiting. She'd know if they came up. It also let her look to the back of the ship, to the old cannon where the Italians were. This was the only place she could watch both groups, make sure they didn't get stupid. An old man in a thick windbreaker walked up to her. He wore a hat embroidered with the Jeremiah O'Brien's logo and colors. He looked very, very nervous. "Hey, Chief," he said. "I think I gotta pull the plug on this." She stopped looking at the Italians and slowly turned her head to look at the old man. Captain Arturo Alamila. Not that there were official ranks on this decommissioned World War II Liberty ship, but the other retired crew members still called him Captain. She wasn't sure, but thought they took turns with the title. How he got it didn't matter. What mattered was at this moment, he was the captain, and the rest of the crew would do what he said. "What are you talking about, Arturo?" He tilted his head towards the Italians. "I'm old, but I'm not stupid, Chief. I figured you were up to something off the books when you told us you needed to sail out tonight. We didn't mind so much because we know you and we don't get 50 grand for the ship every day. But you didn't say anything about Frank fucking Lanza." "I need you to take this boat out," she said, reminding herself that this man was a civilian. He had nothing to do with the showdown. She was putting him at enough risk as it was. She couldn't threaten him. "Did any of the other crew see Lanza?" Arturo shook his head. "Everyone's locked in tight, just like you requested. All crew is staying out of the hold. But I have to look out for the safety of these guys, so I peeked around." She'd prepared for this. She had one chance. She reached into her coat, felt for the thick envelope, then held it in front of Arturo. "That's another 100 grand, she said. "I don't know how much it costs to keep this old girl afloat, but I imagine you don't get $150,000 very often." Arturo took the envelope in a weathered old hand. He slowly opened it, his thumb flipping through the big stack of bills. He wanted that money, but it wasn't the usual kind of greed. The entire crew of the O'Brien consisted of retired volunteers. There were only 2 Liberty ships like this left on the entire planet, and keeping it in sailing condition was a challenge, to say the least. Liberty ships were often credited with winning World War II, transporting endless amounts of supplies, ammunition, and men from America to Europe. Something like 2,500 of them were built, overcoming U-boat attacks by sheer numbers. America simply built more of the ships than the Germans could sink. To the men who maintained her, the O'Brien was a national treasure. 150 large would go a long way to keeping her afloat for many years more. She could have covered up the 50 grand she took from the evidence locker. It would take some creative bookkeeping, but she was the chief of police, and for most things, no one would question her. Jack that number up to 150, however, and she was screwed. It didn't matter. She didn't give a rat's ass about her career or even jail time, as long as she could save tabs and myrrh. Arturo looked up from the envelope. "Those Italians on the stern got any guns?" Amy shook her head. "No, I checked each one of them myself. I promise you, they're unarmed." "The Ruskies down in the ballroom hold then?" She shook her head again. "And how about the 4 homeless guys at the prow cannon? They hiding anything under those stinky blankets?" For that, she hadn't a clue. Frisking Rex's people wasn't an option. "No," she lied. "They're unarmed as well." Arturo looked in the envelope again, then back up at her face. "You better have control of this," he said. "I don't want my people getting hurt. I'm 86 years old, missy. I actually served on a ship just like this. Went across the Atlantic twice. Got half my right foot shot off in a strafing run. I don't much hanker to the thought of surviving the war on a Liberty, then dying on one because of some bullshit game you're pulling. No one will get hurt, Amy said. A little too quickly, perhaps. She felt horrible. Arturo suffered from altruistic greed. The opportunity to grab major money for something he and his fellow volunteers deeply loved. He looked in the envelope one more time, then slid it into his pocket. We'll depart right away, he said. 2 hours, right? Leave the dock, out past the bridge, and back. Amy nodded. He looked at her with suspicion. He didn't believe her. He didn't trust her. But he was going to take the O'Brien out anyway. I don't want it to vaporize or anything like that, Dick, shouted Rex Deprovdechuk. I want a big fireball and stuff, then I want it to sink slow. He wasn't shouting because he was mad. He was shouting to be heard over the loud-as-hell engine room of the Jeremiah O'Brien. Sly was behind his right shoulder, as always, the snake face's massive bulk a constant comfort. The engine room was a crazy place. Big brass pistons, gleaming with oil, drove up and down in a motion that seemed to call for little kids to reach out and touch them so the machines could eat a finger or two. Wheels spun, levers moved, steam hissed. All motion and noise, and Rex didn't like it one bit. And close, narrow quarters. Steep steps that were more ladder than stairs. Metal grate platforms so small you had to be careful when you turned around lest you fall over and into the spinning pistons and turning wheels. Tricky Dick looked back at him. Dick was one of the few adult nocturnals that was short, could look Rex right in the eye. In those eyes, Rex saw the proper admiration, the proper sense of worship, but also something else. Doubt. Doubt over Rex's divine right to lead, wondering, perhaps, if he should be siding with Firstborn instead. So you want me to take out the engines? Dick asked. Rex shook his head. No, I wanted to head out to sea as long as possible. I want the people left on board to know that even though they're going to burn to death or drown, I'm still taking them away from this city, away from hope. Tricky Dick nodded. In each hand, he held a block of C4. He alternately lifted them up and down, seeming to gauge the weight. The C4 had been in one of the trucks brought by Lanz's men. All kinds of fun stuff in those trucks. Medicine, vitamins, Salvation Army clothes, blankets, toothpaste and brushes, big bags of seasonings, lots of bread, but also weapons, ammo, and the plastic explosives. Only 2 blocks, clearly meant to be used in small amounts to clear out new tunnels or to break up cave-ins. 10 pounds of C4 would probably go a long way if used like that, not all at once. But after tonight, Rex knew he could get all that he asked for. How's about I blow up the bridge then, my king? Dick said. Blow a hole in the bottom, take the bridge out at the same time. It's right in the middle of the ship, see? The engine should keep working, for a while anyway. Are you sure? Sly asked. Tricky Dick smiled. It was an ugly smile, full of yellow teeth, most of which were cracked or chipped. Combined with his pockmarked face, Dick was not what you'd call a handsome man. I'm old enough to have ridden the ship on its maiden voyage, Dick said. But I don't know nothing about no boats, see? I'm taking a guess here, at all of it. Do your best, Rex said. I have faith in you, Dick. For just a moment, Rex saw Dick's eyes soften, his smile fade. It was a brief expression of humility, at pure shock of one's king passing out a compliment. Rex had him. Tricky Dick might long for the days of his friend Firstborn running the show, but Dick, like the rest of the Nocturnals, now belonged to Rex. To think that his words could have that kind of impact. So many changes. Such a short time, and yet it felt like a dozen lifetimes ago, when Boyko and Alex Panos had beat him up, broken his arm, and sent him to an emergency room to wait for his mother, Roberta. Alex was dead. So were the rest of the Boyko gang. So was Roberta, Scarface style. And his father, Colombian style. But those weren't his parents. He knew that now. All along, he'd never known his family. All along, he'd hidden away in the park, unknowingly standing just a few hundred feet over their heads. "Finish planting the bomb," Rex said. He checked his watch. A Rolex. He didn't know how much it cost, but it was nice. That was the way things would be for the Nocturnals from now on. Nice. No more cowering in dank tunnels. There were enough mansions in San Francisco that would hide them away and let them live as they deserved to live. The Rolex said 3:05 a.m. "Set it for 30 minutes, Rex said. "That's how long it will take us to get to the bridge. I want it to go off before the ship crosses under the bridge." "Why's that?" Dick asked. "The Golden Gate Bridge is the icon of the city. I want to scorch it. It's symbolic, like an analogy or something. It'll tell the world that the city of San Francisco belongs to the Nocturnals." The Buick turned right on Bay Street. Bryan saw the huge, glowing Ghirardelli sign of the Ghirardelli chocolate factory coming up on the left. A smashing sound of metal, the crunch of splintering auto glass, and the screech of tires as a downward bubble instantly appeared between Bryan and Pookie. The caved-in roof pushed him to the right, pinning him against the passenger door, and drove down on his freshly cracked left shoulder. He just couldn't buy a break with that thing. He felt a powerful buzz in his chest. Whatever had smashed into the car, it was family. The windshield had transformed from clear glass to a modern art canvas of sparkling white lines. The rear-view mirror, still stuck to the windshield, now touched the dashboard. Spiderweb cracks spread across the glass, dense white where the windshield had collapsed down to the dash, and more spread out closer to the sides. "What the fuck?" Pookie screamed. Bryan couldn't see Pookie's head. It was somewhere beyond the caved-in roof. The shit-brown Buick careened off a Mini Cooper parked on the right side of Bay Street, then continued, but slowed. "Don't stop, goddammit!" Bryan said as he tried to fish his right hand to his back to pull the 5.7. "Fuck you!" Pookie screamed. "I'm stopping! Get to the goddamn pier!" A hand punched through the deeply dented roof, tearing through the thin metal and fabric. Like a hunting, grasping snake, the hand turned towards Pookie. Bryan knew the strategy. That hand wanted Pookie's head, or his neck. Bryan instinctively tried to save his friend, tried to reach for it with his left arm, but the dagger of pain that shot through his shoulder told him that wasn't going to happen. Pookie leaned hard to the right, trying to drive while dodging the hand. The fishing hand pulled back a little, then punched through even deeper. "Pooks! Lock him up!" Pooks did. The Buick screeched and slowed. Momentum pulled Bryan forward, sliding his face along the indented roof until his back was against the passenger door. A body slid off the roof and across the cracked windshield, feet digging in on the top edge of the hood. A body with 4 good arms and 2 stunted arms. Bryan couldn't see the face, but this was the motherfucker that had shot Robin. Spidey. The violent braking would have thrown Spidey clear were it not for the forearm he still had driven through the ravaged roof. "Pooks, get us there! Gun it!" Pooks did. The Buick's big engine roared like a broken jet turbine, and the tires screeched again. Momentum pulled at Bryan once more, trying to yank him back into the seat, but this time he braced himself. He kept his back against the door. At the bottom of the dented-in roof, the hand moved again. Spidey had regained his balance. The hand turned and grabbed Pookie's shoulder, missing the meat and bone, but locking on a deep fingerful of cloak. Bri, fuck!" Pookie said. He was scared, but he kept driving. That was good. The hand let go and reached again, heading for Pookie's face, which was pressed hard against the glass of the driver's side door. Bryan punched his right hand through the shattered windshield. Bits of glass flew in a sparkling firework that danced among the bright white streetlights that shot by, flecks of yellow spinning off them thanks to the glowing Ghirardelli sign high above. Bryan grabbed the first thing he saw, an arm. He grabbed and pulled, hard. Glass showered in, the roof now dented back as well as in when Bryan pulled the monster deeper into the car. The monster tried to turn, to punch Bryan, but he was mashed face first into the dented roof and couldn't get an angle. Bryan couldn't punch with his left arm and couldn't let go with his right. "Pooks, stop the car and stab this prick!" "No!" the monster screamed and pulled back harder. The brakes locked up again, and the Buick fishtailed to the right. The momentum, combined with the monster's pull, was too much, and Bryan lost his grip. The creature flew off the hood of the car, hit the pavement, and rolled. Wedged between the dented roof and the passenger side door, Bryan didn't even bother trying to fish around for the door handle. He reached his right hand across his body, made a tight fist, then drove his elbow back. The passenger door's hinges broke free. The metal, plastic, and glass door dropped to the pavement. Bryan scrambled out, right hand reaching behind his back to the slot, coming out with the shiny 5.7. Time for this motherfucker to die. Bryan barely heard the soft flutter behind him, the light sound of feet touching down on pavement peppered with broken glass. It was all the warning he had, before the gun opened up 4 times. All 4 rounds took him in the back, throwing him forward. It felt like dull nails being driven into his bones by a jackhammer. Bryan held tight to the 5.7. He rolled over his right shoulder, onto his back, and fired down the length of his body, pulling the trigger even before he acquired a target. The rush shots went wild. The winged black man moved to his left, sliding for cover behind the rear of the beat-up Buick. Bryan started to sit up, to go after him. Just as he did, 2 strong hands on his right wrist, 2 on his right hand holding the gun. Spidey, all over him. The smell. The rush in his chest of being this close to family. Too strong, too many arms, pulling the gun away from Bryan's hands. With only one good hand, Bryan couldn't pull a knife. He couldn't do anything. "Hey, fuckface," Pookie said. "Heal this!" In the first split second, Bryan saw the shotgun barrel press against Spidey's top right elbow. Spidey saw it too, and tried to pull away. But no one was that fast. Not even a Nocturnal. The shotgun flashed and roared its crunchy, hollow roar. Blood and bones splattered in time to the sound of a handful of cold, dry twigs snapped all at once. Spidey screamed. A pitiful, womanly noise. Screamed and stood, one arm spurting red blood at the now stumpy elbow. The shotgun fired twice more. Boom, boom, both blasts catching Spidey square in the chest, throwing him back against a white Hyundai Compact. More gunfire, from behind. Pookie, crying out, falling. Bryan sat up quick. At the rear bumper, Clyde the Glide saw the motion, turned his aim from Pookie to Bryan, and he did it fast, but this time, Bryan aimed before he pulled the trigger 4 times in less than a second. Clyde dropped. "Pooks!" Bryan screamed without looking back. "Finish Spidey!" Bryan scrambled to his feet and ran to the back of the Buick. Clyde lay there, half under the Buick's back bumper. Blood spurted from his throat as he coughed, trying to draw air. 2 more bullet holes dotted the black skin of his well-muscled chest. His big right hand was reaching for his pistol, lying on the ground just a few feet away. Bryan put his 5.7 to Clyde's reaching hand and pulled the trigger. Clyde shuddered, pulled his bloody hand back to his bloody chest, his right pointer finger staying behind on the glass-strewn pavement. Bryan then kicked the gun away and turned back to face Spidey. But Spidey was gone. All that was left of him was the wide streak of red blood on the white Hyundai and his severed right forearm laying on the ground. Pookie was slowly trying to stand up. "Pooks! I told you to finish him!" "Oh, I'm fine," Pookie said as he picked up the shotgun. "Yeah, thanks for asking, you fucking douchebag. I got shot." "The cloak protected you." Fuck you, Clouser," Pookie said. "And where's your guy, Mr. Superfly Badass Man?" Spidey was gone. Nothing Bryan could do about that now. He had to get to the ship. He had to get to Rex. Get to Firstborn. Bryan turned and walked the 4 steps back to Clyde. The winged man was still trying to breathe, still spraying blood through the hole in his throat. Bryan holstered his 5.7. He reached to his left forearm and pulled out the ceramic knife. Clyde's eyes went wide and white. "Oh no," Bryan said quietly, holding up the knife. "This isn't for you. You get something special." Bryan knelt down, reached under the back of the Buick, and stabbed upward. Gas poured down, splashing onto the pavement, spreading out in a puddle. Bry, Pookie said. "Do not do this." "Hey, Pooks," Bryan said as he wiggled the knife, making the gas tank hole larger. "How about you shut the fuck up?" The puddle spread around Clyde, little waves of gas washing up against his right arm, then onto the skin flaps between his arm and his chest, then his legs. The monster was breathing heavy now. He was scared. Good. He had helped kill Robin. And that meant he would get what was coming to him. "Bryan, seriously," Pookie said. "Cars have stopped. People are watching. Don't do this." Bryan quickly turned and stood nose to nose with Pookie. "For someone who's such a damn right-wing homophobe, you're awfully liberal." Bryan grabbed the shotgun out of Pookie's hands, turned, and fired at the pavement. Sparks flashed briefly. Then the gas caught fire in a great woof. Clyde screamed. Bryan turned and pushed the shotgun back into Pookie's hands. Pookie, his partner, his friend, looked shocked and sickened. Bryan didn't have time for either emotion. He reached through the empty space of the passenger side door, down to the floor, and grabbed his skull cap. The white ink was dry. "We're 4 blocks from Pier 45 and your car is fucked. I'm gonna go do what needs to be done. So if you want out, now's the time, 'cause you ain't seen nothing yet." Pookie stared for a second, then reached into his pocket. His hand came out with 3 shotgun shells. "In for a penny, in for a pound," he said as he loaded the shells into his weapon. "Let's finish this, but afterwards, you and I are going to have a little talk. The word therapy does come to mind." Bryan nodded, turned, and ran for Fisherman's Wharf. Pookie Chang only a few steps behind him. Nocturnal, episode number 35. Coming up, we've got some promos, we've got those junkie calls, we got that big fat announcement I promised you, but first, let me tell you about a talented pair of artists, one by the name of Arturo Alamila and the other by Jennifer Wills. Arturo is the person who designed the winning entry for The Crypt. He has designed the ship that we will be using as the primary vehicle, the Sigler Enterprise, the Sigler Battlestar Galactica, if you will. It's called the PUV James Keeling. It is the featured ship in the podcast novel, The Crypt. You want to go to scottsigler.com, and you may have to scroll down the page a little bit to find that, but we have posted winning entries for The Crypt and some other ships that got in there as well. They'll be prominently featured in the plot. The other name in that mix, Jennifer Wills. Jennifer designed the Exterminators patch, another contest that we put up. So they both won some prizes. They both won some Sigler books, some Sigler swag. You want to go to scottsigler.com and check it out. If you're enjoying The Crypt at all, if you've heard those character stories that I have dropped into the feed, you're going to want to see this bad boy. Go check that out, and congratulations to you both. Very excited to be working with you guys, and excited that you're now part of sort of the official visual mix-ishness that is Siglerism. Another awesome thing to check out over at scottsigler.com is I put up video tours of the SS Jeremiah O'Brien, the ship that, as you can see, is going to be the featured battleground for the finale of Nocturnal. So again, go to scottsigler.com. You might have to scroll down a little bit. Look for the blog post that's about the video tours of the Jeremiah O'Brien, and then you can actually see the final set for the final battle and sort of get a feel for what everything looks like, how everything is organized. I think it'll be a lot of fun when it comes down to that final fight. And this episode also marks the return of the Gore line. That's right, if you want to leave the FDO a message, if you want to hear the FDO rant about something, you want to call 206-666-GORE. That's 206-666-4673. And if you're lucky, the FDO will play your call, and it might go a little something like this.
Scott Sigler, you crazy fuck.
Who, me?
I've been listening to Nocturnal from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's such a good story. The first time I listened to episode 1, I crashed my car while I was listening to it. That's how good Nocturnal is. Let me say that. But in listening to this newest episode, I was surprised at the level of brutality that Brian Clauser exhibited while interrogating Bonehead. It was far beyond the pale of anything I have ever witnessed in one of your stories. I think even beyond some of the Kaler Myers stuff. I mean, come on. I mean, you have pretty effing brutal to jump on a guy's ankles hard enough to make them sound like you crunched walnuts in a wet paper towel. I mean, that's pretty freaking horrible. But
that's true. It is.
It's still not bad enough to make me stop eating something while I'm listening to your podcast. I think by listening to your podcast, I've been hardened to. So when these kind of things come up with Brian Clauser yelling at a monster that he will gut him like a goddamn fish, best line ever. I just relish it. I eat it up like candy at Halloween.
Yes.
But all I gotta say is this better end soon. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to start busting heads, or at least some ankles. But anyway, yeah, this has been your main man Ben from Kutztown University in Pennsylvania. That's right. Now I'm a college boy, as Perry's daddy would say. Now, you just keep writing that shit, Sigler, and I'm faithfully waiting for the crypt and who won that goddamn contest. All right, bye.
Well, as you know, we know who won the goddamn contest. You can always find that information over at scottsigler.com. And Ben, college boy, thank you for calling in. However, I'm not sure the treadmill is really the place to be when you're calling the FDO. And I'm going to go ahead and assume it was the treadmill. I'm assuming the treadmill is what had you breathing so hard while you were calling the FDO. If I leave the treadmill, in my imagination and allow my logical deduction to go no further, I think I can count that as a successful phone call.
Scott Sigler, this is Jeff in Cleveland, Ohio, and I just wanted to say welcome back to publishing Nocturnal.
Thank you.
Episode 34 was so worth the wait. It was excellent.
Yes.
Keep up the great work. Thanks a lot.
Yes.
Bye. Oh, hi. Hi there, Mr. Sigler. I was kind of nervous about calling the gore line because you haven't been using it in a while.
True.
But I just had to say something because, with all the waiting for Nocturnal.
Long time.
And the crypt.
Yes.
And then you're getting it started again.
Yes.
This new episode, and then Brian Clauser being so violent. I have to admit, it was making me gassy.
Oh my.
So I just thought you should know that the gas man is listening again.
Let it out, bro.
Thank you, Sigler. My gaseous problems have been solved, at least for now. Thank you.
You see there, junkies, the Scott Sigler podcast is not just proper entertainment value. It also cures what ails you. Listen to my show, and all of your maladies, pains, maladjustments, and psychoses shall be relieved.
Sigler!
Whoa.
What's up, man? I'm just calling from Portland, Oregon. My name's Jason X.
What's up, Jason?
And I've become a complete and totally brainwashed Sigler junkie.
Yes.
Totally hooked on the Nocturnal. Went all the way through you with the infection.
Yeah.
So looking forward to Contagious.
Oh, yeah, me too.
I want more, man. I want more. Everything you've put out so far I've been able to snag, except the rookie has disappeared off of iTunes. Come on, man. Don't do that to me, man. I need more. More! And just to let you know that I'm supporting the cause, I already picked up Infected in paperback.
Ooh,
actually, I picked up two.
Yes!
Two of my friends for Christmas.
Yes!
So I could spread the love around. Just trying not to get any of the love on you or anything like that.
That's how we do
All
it.
I got to say, man, is on your next book tour, hopefully I will see you down at Pal's.
Yeah.
And much love. Love all the music you've been putting on there. And I'm out, man. Peace.
All right. Nothing like a good screaming Scott Sigler fan to blow out your eardrums. They make you feel good about the world. However, I want you to know, I just went to iTunes. I clicked podcast. Bottom right corner, I clicked podcast directory. Upper right corner, I typed in Scott Sigler. Some stuff comes up, including one little window that says podcasts. If you click on Show All, guess what you'll find? The Rookie in iTunes. You probably can also search for The Rookie. That might be easier, but we don't do things the easy way here in Siglerism. We take the hard way. Because if it's not challenging, if it's not grueling, if it's not grinding, if it doesn't beat you down, then what good is an afterlife anyways? If your life here on Earth isn't just a dismal, rank, rancid mess, then what good does it do you to go to heaven? I ask you this. I ask you. So go subscribe to The Rookie. Rock it out. That's our junkie calls, and if you want to get on the Gore line, remember, 206-666-GORE. I definitely can't get to all the calls, but hopefully I'll get to some of them from here on out. And now I've got 2 promos for you, and this week, both promos are for print books. The first promo is some serious self-promotion, some self-whoring. It is the promotion for Contagious, which will be out December 30th. The second promo is for a book called Chronos, written by my friend Jeremy Robinson, and I think the promo speaks for itself.
Many were infected. Infected with a disease that thinks, a disease that talks. And as the victims finally succumbed, a disease that walks. One man fought back. He resisted the voices. Perry Dawsey carved out pieces of himself in a desperate attempt to survive. He won. But as Perry awakes in a government hospital, he realizes he can still hear those voices. It's not over. And now it's even worse because the infection has become contagious. Contagious is the bloody sequel to Scott Sigler's horror thriller Infected. Contagious is available in stores December 30th, or reserve your copy now at scottsigler.com/preorder. Get the book the day it comes out, because if someone spoils the ending, you'll hate yourself enough to use the chicken scissors.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to go order a copy. It sounds just that good. Now here's the promo for Jeremy Robinson's book. You might recognize the announcer's voice because that announcer is none other than Ranger Bob at rangersound.com. Ranger Bob does all my promos, and he seems to have caught on with some other novelists. Take a listen to this.
It lies beneath the surface, waiting for her. When it strikes, there's no time to scream. No blood, no trace. It swallows her whole and descends into the ocean's depths, where her nightmare and a father's quest for revenge begins. Chronos, a novel by Jeremy Robinson, the author of Anarctos Rising, arrives on January 20th, everywhere books are sold. Pre-order now at your favorite bookstore or at jeremyrobinson.online.com.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the big fat announcement that I promised you. And that announcement is that your FDO is launching his own webcomics company in conjunction with my partners Mark Hester, who's in charge of the art, and Paul Pulsar Rogolinski, who handles all of the programming duties over at scottsigler.com. Now, what kind of webcomic are we going to put up, and why is this of any interest to you? I'll tell you why. Because the very first webcomic we're going to put up is a graphic novel of The Rookie. You guys have got to see this shit to believe it. Mark has done an amazing job. We're going to launch with The Rookie and Black Jack Justice, which is another free podcast that you can get over at podiobooks.com. Blackjack Justice, I listened to the whole first 2 seasons, absolutely loved it. We're going to put that up. It's going to have a nice 50s feel to it. It's going to be awesome and a good counterpoint to the far future violence of The Rookie. What is the name of this new webcomic company, FDO? Because we're very interested. Well, the name of the company is Addictive Comics. Pretty good name, wouldn't you say, you rotten junky bastages? Anyways, you can go to addictivecomics.com. Now, we're just getting warmed up with this, but what we thought would be fun is we're going to blog our way through the launch of the company. So you can go over there now. You can see an initial blog post by yours truly, and if you like, you can subscribe. You can keep coming back. start looking at the preliminary art we put up, and follow the process along as we build this company. I think it's going to build in a fashion that's very similar to how my fiction career built. Those of you who've been listening to me since Earthcore, you know that we got off to a great start. We got better as things went along until we get to the polished, never late machine that the FDO is now. Addictive Comics is going to grow much like that. I think it's going to grow faster. I think the growth process is going to be smoother. Partners involved in it are awesome. You guys will absolutely love Mark Hester. Very, very talented artist. And a lot of you have already communicated with Pulsar Paul Rogolinski over at scottsigler.com. So get over to addictivecomics.com, take a look, make sure you leave us feedback, tell us what you think. And I already know what you think, because you're going to have The Rookie as a graphic novel, Quentin Barnes, Don Pine, Key, Quith Warriors, Quith Leaders, Sklorno, all hashing it out on the football field in beautiful black and white, maybe sometimes a little bit of color. Oh, the art is going to be amazing. We're going to totally bring that novel to life in a whole different way. So do check it out. That's it for this episode of Nocturnal. Not sure when the next episode will drop. I do have to head back to Michigan this week to take care of some more family business for my father-in-law's estate. But very soon, we're going to get this thing wrapped up, put a nice little bow on it, and maybe poke some holes in the package, because there's probably a puppy inside. And if you put a puppy in a box and you tape it up real good and wrap it up with wrapping paper and a ribbon, then a puppy can suffocate. And that doesn't make a happy Christmas for anyone. See you guys next episode. You have been listening to Nocturnal, written and performed by Scott Sigler. For more information, go to scottsigler.com. All music in this podcast provided by Uncrowned off their album Devils and Angels, available now at the iTunes Music Store.